There is a category of car that the auto industry would prefer not to talk about. Not because the cars were bad, the opposite. The cars in this video are still here, still on the road, still in driveways across North America in 2026, with 200,000 miles on them, 300,000 miles, in some cases over 500,000. They have outlasted their warranties, their finance terms, and the manufacturer's planned end-of-life dates by 20 years and counting. Every one of them is doing it on the original engine. One of them was the truck that built Ford into what it is today. Another is hand-assembled by master craftsmen, whose names are engraved on a plaque on top of the engine. A third has been documented at over 1 million miles on the original drivetrain, with the factory crosshatching still visible on the cylinder walls. All 10 were built when the engineers who designed them assumed the cars were supposed to last. Here are the real reasons they survive. Car number 1, the Ford F1 150 OBS. If there is one truck in this video that the average North American driver in his 50s or 60s is most likely to have personally owned, this is it. The 9th generation Ford F150, sold from 1992 through 1996, is widely known inside the truck community by the abbreviation OBS, which stands for Old Body Style. It is the last of the simple, square-shouldered, body-on-frame Ford trucks before the modern modular engines arrived in the 10th generation. Ford built and sold somewhere in the range of 2.5 million 9th generation F150s between 1992 and 1996. In 1996 alone, Ford sold nearly 800,000 F-Series trucks, which was the first time in over a decade that the F-Series outsold the combined Chevrolet and GMC truck volume. The F150 has been the best-selling vehicle in America for 48 consecutive years. The OBS generation is the foundation of that streak. The reason these trucks are still on the road in 2026 comes down to 3 specific engineering choices. First, the engine options. The base engine in the OBS F150 was the 4.9-liter inline 6-cylinder, internally known as the 300. The 300 is, by widespread consensus among American truck mechanics and owners, one of the most overbuilt engines Ford ever produced. Cast iron block, cast iron cylinder head, simple pushrod design, low operating temperatures, and a torque curve that delivers most of its useful pulling power below 3,000 RPM. The 300 was originally designed in 1964. By the time it ended up in the OBS F150 in the 90s, it had been refined for nearly 30 years. It is essentially impossible to kill with normal use. There are documented examples of 300 engines passing 500,000 miles on the original bottom end, with nothing but oil changes and a few timing-related parts. The optional V8 engines, the 5.0-liter and the 5.8-liter, are pushrod small blocks descended from the Ford Windsor engine family. They are not as legendary as the 300 inline 6, but they are simple, durable, and serviceable by any American mechanic with a basic tool set. Second, the construction. The OBS F150 uses body-on-frame construction with a fully boxed ladder frame at the front and rails at the rear. The cab bolts to the frame in 12 places. If the cab corrodes, it can be replaced. If the frame corrodes, the truck can be reframed. If a fender gets damaged, it swaps out in an afternoon. There is nothing structural about the body panels. The truck is, in mechanical terms, a kit of parts that can be repaired indefinitely as long as the basic frame is sound. Third, the absence of complexity. The OBS F150 has no touchscreen. It has no electric power steering. It has no air suspension. It has no electronic transmission control beyond the basic E40D shift solenoids. The four-wheel drive system on trucks so equipped is engaged by a manual lever bolted to the floor next to the gear selector. The radio is a single DIN unit that can be replaced with any aftermarket head unit in 15 minutes. There is no telematics. There is no cellular connectivity. There is no software. The truck does not require a subscription to anything. It does not download updates. It does not, when its battery dies, lose the ability to start because of an electronic security handshake that requires a dealer visit to reset. The trucks rust, particularly in the Salt Belt states. The cab corner panels, the rocker panels, and the rear wheel arches are the first to go. Frame rust is also real, particularly under the cab where road spray collects. A clean Southern State OBS F150 in 2026 is a meaningfully different vehicle from a Northern State truck of the same year, and the price difference reflects that. Clean Southern trucks are now selling for $10,000 to $15,000, with low mileage examples reaching the low 20s. That is a real price for a 30-year-old truck, and it is a clear signal that the market has finally recognized what the OBS generation is. An owner who still has an OBS F150 in his driveway in 2026, with the original 300 inline 6, with the manual hubs, with the column shifter, is sitting on what is now a recognized appreciating classic. The Eddie Bauer trim in particular is now sought after as a luxury collectible, and the rare SVT Lightning Performance variant from 1993 through 95 is appreciating fast. If anyone owns one with the 300 and is still using it as a work truck, the comments are open. We want to hear what the odometer says. Car number 2, the Chevrolet and GMC GMT 400. If a buyer in the 90s did not own a Ford, then there is an excellent chance he owned one of these instead. The GMT 400 platform was General Motors' full-size truck and SUV architecture. In production from 1988 through 1998 on the pickup side, and from 1992 through 1999 for the Tahoe and Suburban SUV variants. Heavy-duty versions stayed in production into the early 2000s. Total platform production exceeded 6 million units. These trucks were everywhere in the 90s. They are still everywhere in 2026. The GMT 400 is the platform that built the modern Chevrolet Silverado name into the brand it is today. It is also the platform that ran the Chevrolet Tahoe, the Chevrolet Suburban, the GMC Sierra, the GMC Yukon, the GMC Yukon Denali, and the original Cadillac Escalade. All of those vehicles share the same fundamental architecture underneath the bodywork. All of them share the same engines. All of them share the same transmissions. All of them are essentially indestructible when properly maintained. The defining engine of the GMT 400 era is the 5.7-liter small block V8, internally called the L31 Vortec. The L31 is the most produced V8 engine in American automotive history. Tens of millions of these engines were built across General Motors trucks, vans, SUVs, and even passenger cars. Parts for the L31 are available at every auto parts counter in the country. Mechanics in every American town have worked on this engine. There is nothing exotic about it. The pushrod V8 architecture dates back to the original Chevrolet small block of 1955, and the L31 is essentially the final and most refined evolution of that 70-year engine family. Ben Welch is a name that should be familiar to anyone who follows GMT 400 owner forums. He is the documented owner of a 1994 Chevrolet Suburban with over 1 million miles on the original drivetrain. The truck has been the subject of multiple online videos, multiple owner club features, and multiple HOT cars and top speed retrospectives. It is not a special truck. It is not a custom build. It is a stock 1994 Suburban with the L31 V8, which has been driven for over 30 years and which still starts every morning. The engine has had 2 timing chains and 1 set of intake manifold gaskets in over 1 million miles. That is the entire mechanical history of the engine. Everything else is wear item replacement. Daniel Bragg owns a 2001 Chevrolet Suburban with over 849,000 miles. There are documented GMT 400 and GMT 800 Suburbans on the road in 2026 with 300,000, 400,000, and in rare cases over 1 million miles. The trucks have weaknesses. The post-1996 Vortec engines have a known intake manifold gasket issue at higher mileages. The lower intake gasket can leak coolant into the engine valley, and the repair requires removing the upper intake manifold to access. Most surviving GMT 400 trucks in 2026 have already had this work done, often more than once. The light-duty 1500 series trucks have brakes that are widely considered marginal for the truck's curb weight. The heavier-duty 2500 series with the Hydro Boost brakes are notably better but rarer in passenger configurations. The 4L60E automatic transmission used in most of these trucks is a workhorse, but it does eventually wear at high mileages and can require rebuild somewhere between 250,000 and 350,000 miles. None of those problems are catastrophic. All of them are tractable. Parts are available everywhere. Aftermarket support is enormous. The trucks are inexpensive to buy in 2026 and inexpensive to keep on the road, which is exactly why so many of them are still on the road. For anyone who owned a Chevy or GMC truck or Suburban in the 90s, the chances are nearly even that the same truck is still being driven by someone, somewhere, possibly by the original owner, possibly by the original owner's kid, possibly by a working contractor who bought it on a Facebook Marketplace ad 3 years ago for $4,000. The GMT 400 is one of the great American workhorses of the modern era. And 2026 is the year that auction prices on clean examples are starting to confirm what the owner community has known for years. Car number 3, the Jeep Cherokee XJ. There is a small American SUV from the 1990s that, more than almost any other vehicle in this video, defines the word cult car. It is called the Jeep Cherokee XJ. It was sold in the United States from 1984 through 2001, with the most loved years generally agreed to be 1991 through 1999, when the 4.0-liter inline 6-cylinder engine and the proper Mopar fuel injection system finally came together in the configuration that the XJ would carry through the rest of its production run. The XJ is one of the most genuinely innovative vehicles General Motors' American competition produced in the 1980s or 90s. It used a unibody construction, which means the body and the frame are integrated into a single welded structure, instead of body on frame. This was extremely unusual for an off-road SUV at the time. Almost everything else in the segment, the Chevy Blazer, the Ford Bronco 2, the Toyota 4Runner, used body-on-frame construction. The Jeep engineering team chose unibody specifically to save weight. The XJ is approximately 1,200 pounds lighter than the full-size Cherokee SJ that it replaced, while keeping nearly all of the same interior space and most of the off-road capability. That weight savings allowed the XJ to deliver fuel economy that body-on-frame SUVs could not match. But the XJ kept solid axles at both the front and the rear, just like a body-on-frame truck. That combination, unibody construction with solid axles, is what makes the XJ so genuinely different. It articulates over off-road obstacles like a real off-road vehicle. It does not corner like a station wagon. And it weighs less than its competition, which means it accelerates faster and uses less fuel. The 4.0-liter inline 6-cylinder engine that powered most XJs from 1991 onward is one of the most respected engines in this entire video. Cast iron block. Cast iron cylinder head. Simple pushrod design with 12 valves total. Output rose from 190 horsepower to 190 horsepower with a 10 lb-ft torque increase. In the high-output version introduced in 1991, it is widely cited in long-term reliability surveys as one of the most durable mass-produced engines ever made. Owners report passing 300,000 miles routinely. Some have passed 500,000. The engine's ancestor, the original American Motors Corporation Inline 6 from 1964, is part of one of the longest-running engine families in American automotive history. There is one specific year of the XJ 4.0 that buyers should avoid in 2026, which is genuinely worth knowing about. The cylinder head castings used on the 2000 and the 2001 XJ 4.0 with the casting number 0331 are prone to cracking between the third and fourth cylinders. The fix is to replace the head with an aftermarket version of the earlier casting. It is a known issue, well documented in the XJ community, and it is fixable. But for anyone shopping an XJ in 2026, the model years to focus on are 1991 through 1999, which avoid the cracked head issue entirely. The XJ's major weakness beyond the late model cylinder head issue is rust. Because the XJ uses unibody construction, the rear quarter panels and the rocker panels under the doors are structural. They hold up the back of the vehicle. When they rust, the structural integrity of the entire body is compromised. Salt Belt XJs need careful inspection of these areas, ideally with the carpet pulled up to inspect the floor pans from inside. A clean Southern State XJ is a meaningfully different vehicle than a Northern State XJ, and the price difference in 2026 reflects that. Clean two-door XJs with the 4.0 and the manual transmission have crossed $30,000 at auction. Clean-up country trim variants with the heavy-duty suspension package are now collector vehicles. Even rough-condition XJs with the 4.0 continue to sell easily for $3,000 to $5,000 to overlanding builders, off-road enthusiasts, and first-time SUV buyers who want something simple and indestructible. The XJ was discontinued in 2001. The replacement, the Liberty, was a worse vehicle by every objective measure. The current Cherokee, sold from 2014 through 2023, was front-wheel drive based and shared no philosophy with the original XJ. The XJ community has, ever since, been a self-organizing group of owners who keep their trucks on the road by themselves, with parts purchased through specialist suppliers and modifications shared on owner forums and YouTube channels. Anyone with a clean XJ in 2026 is welcome in the comments. The owners still daily driving one are even more so. Car number 4, the Toyota 4Runner 3rd generation. The 3rd generation Toyota 4Runner, internal model code N180, sold in the United States from 1996 through 2002, is one of the most genuinely loved SUVs of the entire era. It is the version of the 4Runner that, more than any other generation before or since, defined what the truck was supposed to be. The first and second generation 4Runners were modified Toyota Hilux pickups with fiberglass shells over the bed. They were tough, they were simple, and they were uncomfortable. The 3rd generation changed that completely. Toyota engineered an entirely new chassis for the 3rd generation 4Runner, shared with the Lexus GX 470 and the Toyota Land Cruiser Prado J90. The result was a larger, more comfortable, more on-road capable vehicle that retained nearly all of the off-road capability of the earlier generations. It was the first 4Runner that an owner could daily drive comfortably and also take seriously off-road. The defining engine of the 3rd generation 4Runner is the 3.4-liter 5 VZFE V6. This engine is, by widespread consensus among Toyota mechanics and reliability researchers, one of the most durable V6 engines Toyota has ever produced. It is the same engine that went into the contemporary Toyota Tacoma and the contemporary Toyota T100. It produces 183 horsepower and 217 pound-feet of torque. Those are not large numbers by 2026 standards, but the engine's reputation is not built on horsepower. It is built on the fact that the engine almost never breaks. The bottom end is essentially indestructible. The cylinder heads do not crack. The timing belt, when replaced on schedule at every 90,000 miles, never causes a problem. Examples of the 5VZFE at 300,000 miles on the original bottom end are routine in the Toyota 4Runner forums. There is a 4-cylinder option on the 3rd generation 4Runner, the 2.7-liter TWO-RZFE. It is also a durable engine, and it has its defenders, but it is meaningfully underpowered for the truck's weight. And the V6 is universally recommended for any buyer in 2026 who is shopping the 3rd generation. The 3rd generation 4Runner also introduced an upgraded suspension architecture with coil spring rear suspension instead of the leaf springs used on earlier 4Runners. The result is a meaningfully better on-road ride. The 4-wheel drive system is mechanical, lever-operated, and shared with the Lexus LX. Optional rear locking differentials were available on the Limited and SR5 trims, which makes a properly equipped 3rd generation 4Runner genuinely off-road, capable in a way that almost no modern crossover SUV can match. There are 2 specific years of the 3rd generation 4Runner to be careful about, which are 2001 and 2002. Those years saw the discontinuation of the rear locking differential and the manual transmission option, and they have somewhat higher reported head gasket failure rates than the earlier 1996 through 2000 model years. The script recommends focusing on the 1996 through 2000 model years, with the V6 and the Limited or SR5 trim for the cleanest 2026 purchase. Auction prices on clean 3rd generation 4Runners in 2026 are genuinely strong, particularly for low mileage examples. The truck has crossed into recognized collector territory. A clean 1998 Limited with under 150,000 miles can command $15,000 to $20,000 in 2026. Higher mileage examples in driver condition still trade at $5,000 to $10,000. The 3rd generation 4Runner is one of the genuinely appreciating SUVs of the past 5 years, and the appreciation curve does not appear to be slowing. Anyone with a 3rd generation 4Runner sitting in his driveway in 2026 with a 5VZFE V6 and a clean frame is sitting on what is now genuinely a recognized collectible. The advice is to hold on to it. Car number 5, the Toyota Camry. If there is one car on this list that the average American driver is most likely to have personally owned during the 90s, it is the Toyota Camry. The Camry, in either its 3rd generation XV10 configuration from 1992 through 1996, or its 4th generation XV20 configuration from 1997 through 2001, was the best-selling passenger car in the United States for most of the decade. From 1997 onward, the Camry overtook the Ford Taurus to become the best-selling sedan in America, and it has held that position for most of the time since. The XV10 Camry, in particular, is described in retrospective coverage as the closest the Camry ever came to feeling like a Lexus. It introduced triple-sealed doors, extensive sound deadening, an aluminum hood for weight savings, and interior materials that contemporary reviewers compared favorably to luxury sedans. Toyota was, at the time the XV10 was developed, also developing the Lexus LS400. The 2 cars do not share platforms, but they share a development philosophy. The XV10 is a Toyota engineered with the same obsessive attention to detail that produced the Lexus. The defining engine of the 90s Camry is the 2.2-liter 5 SFE inline 4-cylinder. This engine is, by every honest measure, one of the most durable mass-production four-cylinders ever made. Iron block. 8-valve overhead cam architecture. Low compression ratio. Low operating temperatures. A service profile that asks for almost nothing beyond timely oil changes. Examples of the 5 SFE at 300,000 miles on the original bottom end are common in the long-term Toyota communities. Examples at 400,000 miles are not unheard of. The optional V6 engines have a more complicated story. The earlier 3VZFE 3-liter V6 in the XV10 has documented head gasket issues at higher mileages, and used buyers in 2026 should approach those engines carefully. The later one, MZFE V6, introduced in 1994 for North American models, is significantly more reliable and is a perfectly good engine for buyers who want the additional power. But for buyers prioritizing absolute longevity, the 4-cylinder 5 SFE is the engine to look for. The Camry's major weakness is rust on the rear quarter panels in salt belt states, which is the standard Japanese sedan failure mode of the era. A clean southern state Camry from the 90s is meaningfully different from a northern state example. There is a specific reason the XV10 and XV20 Camrys survive in such large numbers in 2026. They were bought new by careful, financially conservative buyers who maintain them according to the factory schedule, who pass them down to family members rather than trading them in, and who never modified them beyond the occasional set of new floor mats. The Camry was and is the definition of a non-enthusiast car. Almost nobody who bought one drove it hard. Almost nobody who bought one cut corners on maintenance. The result, in 2026, is a population of high-mileage Camrys that have been preserved by ordinary, sensible ownership rather than by collectors or enthusiasts. Clean 90s Camrys in 2026 are genuinely cheap. $3,000 buys a driver. $5,000 buys a clean one with documentation. $7,000 buys a low-mileage example. They are, by an order of magnitude, the cheapest reliable transportation available on the American used market. For the families whose 90s Camry got someone through college or got a kid through college, the comments are open. Car number 6, the Honda Accord. Where the Toyota Camry was the boring sedan that lasted forever, the Honda Accord was the slightly less boring sedan that lasted forever and was actually fun to drive. The 4th-generation Accord, sold in the United States from 1990 through 1993, and the 5th-generation Accord, sold from 1994 through 1997, are the versions of the Accord that built Honda's American reliability reputation in the way that the Camry built Toyotas. The defining engine family of the 90s Accord is the F22 series. The F22A and the F22B are 2.2-liter inline 4-cylinder engines with single overhead camshaft architecture and either non-VTEC or VTEC variable valve timing, depending on trim. The F22 is a simple engine, and that simplicity is the reason it survives. Cast iron block, aluminum cylinder head, 16 valves total, multi-point fuel injection, that is, even in 2026, easy to diagnose and repair with basic tools. Examples of the F22 engine at 300,000 miles on the original bottom end are routine in the Honda owner forums. Hot Cars ran a feature in 2025 on a 1990 Honda Accord with 310,000 miles on the original drivetrain, owned by the same owner since new. The Honda Accord high mileage success stories thread on the Edmunds forums has documented hundreds of similar examples, with mileages ranging from 140,000 into the low 300,000s. The Accord also had an enthusiast variant that almost nobody outside the Honda community remembers, which is the H22A VTEC engine in the Accord SE, and the Accord Special Edition Coupe. The H22 is a 2.3-liter inline four-cylinder with double overhead camshafts and high-output VTEC, producing approximately 200 horsepower from a normally aspirated engine. 200 horsepower from a 2.3-liter four-cylinder in 1995 was an extraordinary number. The H22 Accord Coupes are now sought-after enthusiast cars, particularly the manual transmission examples in good condition. Auction prices have started to climb. There is one specific maintenance item that all 90s Accord owners need to know about, which is the timing belt. The F22 and H22 engines are interference designs, which means that if the timing belt breaks while the engine is running, the pistons will collide with the open valves, and the engine will be destroyed. The timing belt service interval is approximately 90,000 miles. For anyone buying a 90s Accord in 2026, the first question to ask is when the timing belt was last replaced. If the answer is more than 90,000 miles ago, the next service should be done immediately. Honda also had an issue specific to the 6th generation Accord, sold from 1998 through 2002, which had documented automatic transmission failures, particularly on the V6 models. The 6th generation Accord is technically 90s era for its first model year. The script recommends focusing on the 4th and 5th generation Accords for the cleanest 2026 purchase. Clean 4th and 5th generation Accords are slightly more expensive than equivalent Camrys in 2026 because of the enthusiast cult around the Honda brand and the VTEC engines. $5,000 to $8,000 buys a clean driver. Higher mileage examples in good condition still trade at $3,000 to $4,000. The H22 Accord Coupes have crossed into collector territory and now command meaningful premiums. Anyone who owned a 90s Accord probably remembers the VTEC kicking in. Comments are open. Car number 7, the Honda Civic. If the Camry was the boring sedan and the Accord was the slightly less boring sedan, the Honda Civic was the small car that the entire American import tuner movement was built around. The 5th generation Civic, internally called the EG chassis for hatchbacks and EH/EJ for sedans and coupes, was sold from 1992 through 1995. The 6th generation Civic, internally called the EK chassis, was sold from 1996 through 2000. Both generations are, in different ways, the foundational platforms of the modern Honda enthusiast community, the defining engine families of the 90s. Civic are the D-Series and the B-Series. The D-Series engines, including the D15 and D16, were the standard power plants in the basic Civic trims. They are simple, low-output, single overhead cam 4 cylinders. The D15 makes between 100 and 110 horsepower, depending on year and trim. The D16 makes between 127 and 140 horsepower. Neither engine is fast. Both engines are, by widespread consensus, among the most durable mass-produced 4 cylinders ever made. Examples of the D16 at 350,000 miles on the original bottom end are routine in the Honda forums. Owners regularly report 250,000-mile cars that have never had any internal engine work. The B-Series engines, particularly the B16 and B18, were the high-performance variants. They appeared in the Civic C and the Japanese domestic market Civic Type R. The B16 is a 1.6-liter double overhead cam VTEC engine, producing 160 horsepower in U.S. specification. The B18 is a 1.8-liter version, producing approximately 170 horsepower in the U.S. Integra GSR and 195 horsepower in the U.S. Integra Type R. These engines became the foundation of the entire late 90s and early 2000s import tuner culture. They are still, in 2026, the engines that drive cult demand for clean, unmodified examples. The Civic's major weakness in 2026 is not the car, it is the modification problem. A significant percentage of the surviving EG and EK Civics in North America have been modified, often by previous owners who did not know what they were doing. Engine swaps, suspension drops, cut springs, aftermarket turbos, body kits, and frame modifications are common. Genuinely original, unmodified, low-mileage examples are increasingly rare and now command real money at auction. The other Civic problem is theft. The 90s Civic was, throughout the late 90s and early 2000s, one of the most stolen vehicles in North America. The reason was a combination of high parts demand, easy ignition bypass, and the popularity of the platform among modifiers. Many of the surviving Civics in 2026 are cars that survived the theft epidemic by being stored carefully or by being in places where theft was less common. A clean 90s Civic with documented original ownership is now genuinely rare. Auction prices reflect this. Clean 1999 Civic Seat Coupes have crossed $20,000 at Bring a Trailer. Two-door EG hatchbacks with B-Series swaps and good documentation can reach $15,000. Even basic D-Series Civics in clean, unmodified condition trade at $5,000 to $7,000. Anyone who bought a Civic new in 1996 and still has it is welcome in the comments. So are the buyers, possibly. Car number 8. The Lexus LS 400. There is one luxury car on this list. It is the Lexus LS 400. It is, by widespread agreement of every honest reliability researcher, every Toyota mechanic, and every long-term owner, one of the most durable production vehicles ever built by anyone. The LS 400 launched in 1990. It was the first Lexus. The Lexus brand itself did not exist before the LS 400. The entire division was created specifically to launch this single car. Toyota president Eiji Toyoda had set the engineering team a deliberately impossible mandate in 1983. He told them, in his exact public statement, to build a car that was better than the best in the world. The team that responded to that mandate consisted of approximately 60 designers, 2,300 technicians, 200 support staff, and 1,400 engineers, organized into 24 teams. The development process took 6 years. The total program cost is reported to have exceeded $1 billion. The car they built was the LS 400. The defining engine of the LS 400 is the 1UZFE. It is a 4.0-liter naturally aspirated V8 with 32 valves, dual overhead camshafts on each cylinder bank, and a target output of 250 horsepower. The engine's design specifications were genuinely extraordinary for 1990. The block is aluminum with cast iron cylinder liners. The connecting rods, the pistons, and the crankshaft were balanced to tolerances normally associated with racing engines. The engine sits on hydraulic engine mounts to eliminate vibration. The two-piece propeller shaft was tuned for primary and secondary balance, with the engine itself tilted slightly to allow the shaft to lie in a perfectly straight line from the gearbox to the rear axle. None of those specifications were market requirements. All of them were chosen by the engineering team because Eiji Toyoda had told them to build the best car in the world. Toyota also did something during the LS 400's development that almost no other manufacturer has done before or since. Toyota assembled what was internally called the anti-aging team. The team's job was to disassemble used vehicles from competing manufacturers, identify the specific components that wore out first under long-term use, and engineer specific solutions to those wear mechanisms before the LS 400 ever left the factory. The anti-aging team is reported in multiple Lexus retrospectives as one of the reasons the LS 400 ages the way it does. Specific components that competing luxury cars failed at, the LS 400 was specifically engineered not to fail at. The result is the most legendary durability story in this entire video, which is the Million Mile Lexus. The Million Mile Lexus is a 1996 LS400, originally owned by Matt Farah of the Smoking Tire YouTube channel. The car has been driven by Farah and by various automotive journalists who have borrowed it over the years, until the odometer rolled over 1 million miles. The original engine has never been opened. The original transmission has been rebuilt 3 times. The original interior remains intact. The factory cross-hatching marks on the cylinder walls, when the engine was finally inspected after 1 million miles, were still visible. The metal had barely worn down. That is, the LS400. In 2026, the LS400 is genuinely cheap to buy. A driver quality example with 200,000 miles can be bought for $8,000 to $10,000. A low mileage example in clean condition can reach $15,000 to $18,000. Compared to the original MSRP of approximately $36,000 in 1990, which is roughly $70,000 in 2026 dollars, the LS400 is one of the great value propositions in modern collector cars. There is one important caveat. The LS400 is not cheap to maintain. The engine is genuinely durable, but the surrounding systems are complex luxury car systems that age expensively. The starter motor is famously located in the engine valley underneath the intake manifold, which means starter replacement is a labor-intensive job. The air suspension on equipped models can fail and is expensive to replace. The timing belt service is required at every 100,000 miles. The LS400 is not a budget transportation choice. It is a luxury car that an owner can buy cheaply, but maintaining it correctly is a real ongoing expense. For anyone who can accept that maintenance reality, the LS400 in 2026 is one of the great cars to own. It still drives like a luxury car. It still feels like a luxury car. And it is, by every documented measure, one of the most durable luxury sedans ever produced. Car number 9, the Mazda Miata. The Mazda Miata is the sports car on this list. The original Miata, internally called the NA, was sold in the United States from 1990 through 1997. The second generation Miata, called the NB, was sold from 1999 through 2005. Both generations are, by widespread agreement, among the most genuinely fun and most genuinely durable sports cars ever built. The Miata's origin story is, in itself, a small piece of automotive history. In the late 1970s and early 80s, the small displacement British roadster, the Triumph Spitfire, the MGB, the Lotus Elan, was disappearing from the market. The cars themselves were unreliable, the parent companies were collapsing, and the segment was widely considered dead. Mazda, in 1978, started a development project led by Bob Hall, an American journalist who had been hired into Mazda's product planning division, and Kenichi Yamamoto, who would later become Mazda's president. The project's goal was simple: build a small, lightweight, rear-wheel drive sports car with the spirit of the dead British roadster, but with Japanese reliability. The project was greenlit in 1986. 3 years later, in February of 1989, Mazda revealed the Miata at the Chicago Auto Show, and the rest is history. The defining engine families of the 90s Miata are the B6 in the early NA and the BP in the later NA and the NB. The B6 is a 1.6-liter inline four-cylinder, producing 116 horsepower. The BP is a 1.8-liter version, producing 140 horsepower. Neither engine is fast in any modern sense. Both engines are extremely durable, cast iron block, a simple double overhead cam architecture, low operating stress. Examples at 200,000 miles on the original bottom end are routine. The Miata is also, mechanically, one of the simplest cars in this video. The original NA weighs approximately 2,100 pounds. The convertible top is operated manually, with one latch and one motion. The radio is a single DIN unit. The interior controls are minimal. The 5-speed manual transmission, the standard configuration on the vast majority of NA and NB Miatas sold in North America, is robust and easily serviceable. Owners report that the Miata is, in many ways, the easiest car to keep running long-term that any major manufacturer has produced in the past 50 years. The Miata's weaknesses in 2026 are the convertible top, the front frame rails on NB models in Salt Belt states, and the cult-driven price increases. The vinyl convertible top wears out after about 10 to 15 years and needs replacement. Most surviving Miatas have had at least one top swap. The front frame rails on the NB specifically can rust in Salt Belt examples, and the prices of clean low-mileage examples have risen significantly over the past 5 years, as the Miata has crossed from being affordable transportation into being a recognized, appreciating classic. Clean NA Miatas in 2026 trade between $5,000 for higher mileage drivers and $20,000 for low mileage examples in original condition. The very rare Mariner Blue and British Racing Green limited editions trade higher, as NB Miatas are slightly cheaper, with clean examples available in the $4,000 to $12,000 range. The Miata is one of the great affordable sports car values still available in the new and used market in 2026. And the Miata cult community is one of the most welcoming and engaged owner communities in the entire automotive enthusiast world. The saying among Miata owners is that anyone who has ever driven one remembers it. The owners who still have one are welcome in the comments. Car number 10, the Ford Crown Victoria. The last car on this list is the one that, more than any other vehicle in the video, has lived multiple lives in the American transportation system. It is the Ford Crown Victoria. Specifically, the redesigned Panther platform Crown Victoria that launched for the 1992 model year and continued with periodic updates until production ended in 2011. This was the taxi, this was the police car, this was the airport shuttle, this was the funeral fleet sedan, this was the rural American Sunday driving grandpa's sedan, and it is still, in 2026, all of those things. The Crown Victoria of the 90s is built on the Ford Panther platform, which is a body-on-frame, full-perimeter ladder frame architecture, more like a truck than a car. The Lincoln Town Car and the Mercury Grand Marquis share the same platform. All three vehicles are, mechanically, extremely similar underneath the bodywork. All three are still in active service in 2026 in numbers that no other 20-year-old car can match. The defining engine of the 90s Crown Victoria is the 4.6-liter modular V8. The modular V8 is a single overhead cam, 2 valves per cylinder, aluminum-headed engine that Ford introduced in 1991 in the Lincoln Town Car, and rolled out across the Panther platform in 1992. It is one of the most durable Detroit V8s of the modern era. Police fleet and taxi fleet examples routinely surpass 300,000 miles. Documented 1 million mile examples exist. The Panther platform itself is the reason the Crown Victoria survives in such large numbers. Body-on-frame construction makes collision repair drastically cheaper than equivalent unibody cars. The frame can be straightened. The body bolts off. If a fender, a hood, or a panel is damaged, it can be replaced in an afternoon for a few $100s in junkyard parts. There are still hundreds of thousands of Crown Victorias and Grand Marquises sitting in salvage yards across North America, providing a near infinite parts supply for the vehicles that are still on the road. The most celebrated version of the 90s Crown Victoria is the P71 Police Interceptor. This was the law enforcement variant with a higher capacity alternator, external transmission and engine oil coolers, stiffer suspension, and an inch of additional ride height. P71s became, after their police service ended, some of the most desirable cheap V8 rear-wheel drive sedans on the American used market. A retired P71 in 2026 can be purchased for under $5,000, and the buyer is getting a body-on-frame V8 sedan that has been pre-punished and survived. The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, as of late 2023, was still operating 429 Crown Victoria police interceptors out of an original fleet of 600 purchased before production ended in 2011. 13 years into the post-production era, the cars are still patrolling. New York City's yellow cab fleet finally retired its last Crown Victoria taxis in 2023. Until that year, the Crown Victoria was, for over 20 years, the iconic New York City taxi. The Crown Victoria has known weaknesses. The plastic intake manifold on 1996 through 2001 models has a documented crack failure mode at the front coolant crossover. Most surviving cars have had the manifold replaced with the upgraded aluminum version. Pre-2004 models have shorter spark plug threads in the cylinder heads, which can cause plugs to blow out of the heads if over-torqued. The repair, with a time-cert kit, is known and tractable. Late model Performance White paint flakes off in sheets due to a missing primer step at the factory. None of those issues, individually or in combination, threaten the basic survival of the car. Clean 90s Crown Victorias and Grand Marquises in 2026 are extremely cheap. $3,000 to $5,000 buys a driver. $5,000 to $8,000 buys a clean low-mileage example. Even pristine Garage Queen Crown Victorias rarely cross $15,000. The Panther platform is one of the great unrecognized values in the American used market. 10 cars, all from the 1990s, all still on the road in 2026. They were built simply. They were built honestly. They were built when the engineers who designed them assumed the cars would still be running 30 years later. The proof is in the driveways. The comments are open. The owners are out there. This is the place to find them. Now, click on this next video to see the car that, more than any other American performance car of the 90s, defines what 2026 buyers are still chasing. The car that saved the Corvette program from cancellation. The car that produced more horsepower per dollar than anything else for sale in the United States at the time. The car that, in clean low-mileage condition, is appreciating faster in 2026 than almost any other American sports car of its decade.